To make the Collage Nutcracker, you need scissors, a drawing utensil, some kind of glue. In the art room, we have cups of white glue and glue brushes. You can also use a glue stick. If you don't have access to construction paper at home, make sure that you contact Miss Orchard. The assumption is that you're doing this artwork at home if you're absent, but you're doing it in the classroom if you're here. So you should have access to all of the materials in the art classroom. You're going to start by deciding which color is your background color that you're going to be building on. I'm going to be building on a blue piece of construction paper. With my pencil, I'm just going to put my name on the paper and flip it over. It's probably very difficult to see this with the camera. You can always use a white crayon if you're working on dark colored paper. If you're in the art room, the paper has already been cut for you in most cases, unless you're going after a specific color. If you're doing this at home, you have to be able to make the pieces of construction paper smaller so it's easier for you to work with. So regardless of the size of your construction paper, the easiest way to make it smaller is by folding in half and cutting on the crease and repeating that process until you get more manageable sizes. The paper that has been cut in the art room is about 1/4 to 1/8 of a full sheet. So if we put these two pieces together, fold them in half again, cutting on the crease. So that's 1/4 of the size. If you wanted it to be smaller, you could repeat by folding it in half again and cutting again. In the art room, you should only be doing this if there aren't enough colors pre-cut for what you're using, or if there's a specific kind of texture or color paper that you want to use for your nutcracker. When you have finished gathering or cutting your construction paper, you need 2 of the same color for the uniform, 1 color for the pants, 1 color for uniform accents. You can always have more than 1 color for uniform accents. A color for boots, a color for hair, and what's kind of tricky is getting a skin tone color. So I'm using some cardstock that I have that's kind of somebody's skin tone. You can always use white paper and color it in with crayons to match a particular human skin tone. We're going to start by cutting the uniform shapes. I'm going to put all my colors off to the side, keep them nice and safe, don't lose them. To cut the uniform, we're going to hold the paper tall ways. We're going to fold the long edge to the long edge, like a hot dog. Pinch, make a sharp crease, and we're going to draw the shape of the body, because that's what our uniform is covering. I'm going to start at the top short edge. I'm going to curve really close to the edge of my paper. My fold is on the right, by the way. I'm gonna come all the way to the crease again, about, let's say, 1/4 of the way down our paper. You could say that's, 1 thumb length if you want, however that helps you. We're gonna go from the corner to our curve. You can make it a curved line or a straight line. You may want to erase this interior line so you don't accidentally cut it. Holding my paper together while I cut so it's symmetrical. I'm just going to put my scraps off to the side here. With either the white glue or the glue stick, I recommend using white glue. You can use a glue stick if that's all you have or if that's your preference. I'm going to apply glue to the outer edges of my shape. If this were patterned paper like you might have at home or like we have in the art room, make sure you're drawing and applying glue to the side that does not have the pattern on it. I'll flip my uniform over, looks kind of like a vase. I'm going to place this kind of in the middle-ish. I need to leave room for a head, I need to leave room for legs. It's okay if the hat of my nutcracker ends up going off the page. To make the uniform sleeves, I'm using the same color pattern. I'm going to fold long edge to long edge again, hot dog way. You're going to draw a shape that looks kind of like a skateboard. So it doesn't actually matter where the fold is this time around, but it's just good practice to keep it on the same side. I'm gonna start by drawing a rainbow arc near the top, a kind of smiley near the bottom, and then I'm gonna connect the two. You can make different shapes for your arms, especially if you plan on posing your nutcracker or giving them elbows. This is just the very basic way to do this. Again, cut out your sleeves. The paper is still folded, so you get two identical pieces, okay? I'm gonna apply glue to the back side. Where this is double-sided construction paper, there is no right or wrong side, but if you're using patterned paper, that does matter. I'm gonna put my arms next to my torso. Some people prefer to overlap them. You can do that if that's something you're interested in. Traditional nutcrackers, because they're made out of wood, the arms really do just stick right next to that torso. Smoothing my pieces down as I go. It's okay if the paper starts to curl or wrinkle as you're working. After I've made the uniform torso, I'm gonna make the uniform legs. So I'm making my nutcracker wear white pants. I'm gonna fold my paper in half, long edge to long edge. In theory, I could just cut on my fold to get two pieces that are the same, but for this torso I've created, that would be much too thick. So instead, I'm going to draw a line on the creased side, mostly straight. You can use a ruler if you want to. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner, actually. I'm gonna cut on my outer line, so this is gonna be the leg, this is leftover scrap. Because I'm making the pants white, I'm gonna keep that leftover scrap for things like the teeth and possibly the eyes. You wanna line the legs up with the bottom of the uniform. If the legs extend all the way to the bottom of the paper, that's okay. If they go off the paper, you can always trim them once you've glued them on there. For the skin, you're going to use their skin-toned colored paper to make the head and the hands, because those are the only part of the nutcracker's skin that we can see. This time I'm gonna fold short edge to short edge. I'm gonna line up the straight edge bottom with my uniform body. And I'm gonna line up the crease with that middle line on my uniform. From the body, I'm gonna draw a curve, come up and over to the fold. Because this will be symmetrical, I'll get another half just like it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. Apply glue to the back side, which is the side with the pencil marks. And again, if you don't have human skin tone construction paper and you're working on this at home, or you don't see a color that you want in the art room, you can always use skin tone colors to color in white paper. Okay. For the hands, I'm going to use the corner again. This time it's on the opening. I'm going to line it up with my left sleeve. Thankfully, nutcrackers don't have fingers. I'm just going to make a quarter circle arc from the top to the side, keeping my paper together while I cut it, and then gluing them. So I'll get two symmetrical little nutcracker hands. You can make them overlap the sleeve too if you want to, but we're going to put some little cuff details on. So don't worry if there's a little gap. I really shouldn't be gluing on top of my background because it's going to leave little glue streaks, which does not look good in terms of craftsmanship. I do recommend that you have like a scrap paper that you're gluing on top of if you're using a glue stick. If you're using the glue brush and the white glue, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so I have head, torso, hands, legs. Let's make some boots for our nutcracker. I'm giving my nutcracker black boots, which might be difficult to see on camera what I'm drawing with the graphite. I'm going to fold short edge to short edge. I'm going to line up with my leg, right? Remember I cut my leg so it was narrower than the paper was, but I want my boot to overlap it just a little bit. I'm gonna line my boot up with the bottom of my paper. That's not quite even. Let's see if I can do it this way. That's better. So I've got the fold on the inside. I'm gonna scoot it over. I'm gonna draw a line on the other side so it sticks out just a little bit, and then hold it together and cut it. I want to keep my scraps to make the toe of the boot. I'm going to cut this piece in half. If it doesn't touch the bottom of the paper, that's okay, right? If you have a little bit of room between the bottom of your Nutcracker's feet and the bottom of your paper, that is perfectly fine. I'm going to switch to white glue for this one. The white glue in the classroom is already poured out in cups with brushes, which is much, much easier than working with glue bottles that sometimes decide to cooperate and sometimes do not. Lining it up and smoothing it down. You shouldn't be using so much glue that it oozes out of the side of your artwork. To make the toes for your Nutcracker's feet, we're going to use that piece of scrap. I have quite a bit of scrap, so I'm just going to fold this one in half so I can cut it once to get two. I'm going to line the back edge up with the back of my boot, or I can scooch it forward. How much of a boot you have is up to you. In fact, right now I could always unfold this piece, cut it on the crease, and have very square-toed boots. If you want more rounded toes, you just draw a little arc on the corner that's pointing outwards. I'm going to clip off that arc and separate those two pieces. So now if I dry place them, I can see I have two believable toes. Okay, then you put glue on the back, line them up, press them down. If you end up needing a small amount of a color that you haven't used, so you have no scrap of it, you can always borrow a scrap piece from your neighbor. You can look in the scrap construction paper container, or you can always take a little piece out of a bigger piece and then put the rest back. Let's create some uniform details. I'm going to use my red construction paper that I chose for my details. I'm going to make cuffs and lapels as part of the uniform. I'm going to fold my paper in half, hot dog way. I'm going to place it on the torso, and I'm putting my lapels at an angle. You could put yours straight up and down if you want. The lapel is like the collar of the shirt. I'm going to draw some little wedges here and then draw down to my fold. I can cut on my lines. End up with one symmetrical piece that I need to cut in half on the fold. If you look at the example Nutcracker on Classroom or on a whiteboard in class, you'll see that it also has lapels that are basically this shape. If you want to look up other Nutcrackers and see what kinds of designs they have on their torsos, that is fine. So I'll put it at an angle, make sure I put glue on the correct side. Looking pretty good. They're not perfectly symmetrical in terms of their placement. That's pretty close though. With the rest of my red, I'm going to make some sleeve cuffs. They can be bigger than the sleeve or the same size as the sleeve. So if I kind of eyeball it this way with my fold on the top, and I can place it so that it overlaps the hand a little bit to hide any gaps I might have. Draw a line a little bit bigger than the sleeve. Cut on my line. I'm going to cut this in half. And then I'm going to place my sleeve cuffs, the end of my sleeve. And I'm choosing to put it a little bit over the Nutcracker's hand. You don't have to if you feel like you did a pretty good job of lining them up and getting the shapes correct. I'm going to use some of my leftover boot material to give my Nutcracker a black belt. If you don't have black, you don't have to use black. If you feel like your Nutcracker doesn't need a belt, that is fine as well. I'm gonna make it a little bit wider to make that taper a little bit less dramatic. For the mouth of the Nutcracker, right? That's the most important key visually, that it's a Nutcracker and not just a toy soldier or something like that. Nutcrackers have big rectangular mouths where you can see their teeth very clearly. You do need to make them white, otherwise it's not really going to communicate that it's teeth. So I'm taking the scraps from my pants. If you don't have white scraps, you can certainly look in the scrap container, or you can cut just another piece and put the rest back. I'm going to draw a straight line down. I'm going to clip off just a little bit. This is kind of big for a mouth, even for a Nutcracker. So I'm going to fold it back in half on that crease I had and just take off a sliver. Okay, so what's weird about Nutcrackers is that their teeth are on their torso, their lower teeth, because that's where the mechanism is, the lever that actually makes them a functional Nutcracker for cracking nuts. I'm going to place this half on the head and half on the torso. I've got a little pencil line. I should have put that on the back. I'm just gonna rip my paper. Just gonna smush that back down and take care of that once my glue is dry. No mistakes, happy accidents. For the nose of your Nutcracker, you certainly can use the same color. You can pick an exaggerated version of your color. You can give it some kind of detail on the end of the nose by making it red or making it slightly darker or slightly lighter. I'm going to use just a little piece of another color I have here. I'm just going to cut out a triangle shape for my nose. Nutcracker noses are not like super detailed. So I have this tiny triangle. That's kind of big for a nose. Let me cut off the top of it. That's much better. So put some glue on here. You don't necessarily have to give them a nose. I'm going to say they look really strange without one. Just got my nose. For the eyes, you can absolutely use white scrap paper to make eyes. I'm actually going to use these googly eyes that I have here. If you don't have googly eyes, don't worry about it. You can always borrow some from the art room if you're doing this at home. For my googly eyes, I'm definitely going to use white glue. You do have to give your Nutcracker a face. I suppose if you did something like putting sunglasses on instead of drawing the eyes or cutting them out or using googly eyes would work. The majority of this project does need to be collage, but you can have small amounts of things that are drawn on, like really fine details on the face or really fine details on the uniform if you're putting more detail on the uniform. Okay, so it looks pretty crazy. We're gonna make some eyebrows now. My chosen hair color is orange, just like the example on Classroom and on the whiteboard. I'm gonna use my hair color to make hair and eyebrows for my Nutcracker. I'm gonna fold it in half. I'm going to put the crease on the right. And using my pencil, I'm gonna sketch out, roughly how tall my Nutcracker's hair would be, which is right about here. Some of it's gonna be covered by the hat. I'm just gonna make a zigzaggy pattern. A lot of Nutcrackers have crazy looking hair. Make a little zag in here too. I'm gonna cut it out. And then I have two that are symmetrical, so I'm gonna cut them in half. And remember to put the glue on the pencil side this time, so I don't have to erase. Oh, I put the glue on the wrong side. Okay, we're gonna have like flip-flopped hair. It's not quite symmetrical. That's okay. Better than trying to peel it up and try again. Let's see if I can erase that pencil mark on the teeth. That's working pretty well. Oops, I moved the eye. We're gonna draw a line. You could always use a marker for this too if you want. And then vertical lines for the teeth. I definitely have enough here to make a beard as well. You don't have to make a beard. A lot of Nutcrackers have a beard right about here so that you can't see the mechanism, but that doesn't mean you need to give your Nutcracker a beard. I'm gonna make some eyebrows. I'm just gonna cut some triangles again. So holding my paper together and free cutting. If you're not comfortable with free cutting, you don't have to do it. Some people really feel more comfortable drawing everything that they do. It's okay if you don't. Eyebrows are really important for communicating expression. So how you put your eyebrows can cause a very different kind of effect. Because I've given my Nutcracker googly eyes, he kind of looks comedic anyway. All right, he needs a hat. I don't have an extra color on hand for a hat. You can use one of the colors you already have. You can get another color or pattern. I'm gonna go with kind of the traditional route, and I'm gonna use black. So I'm gonna fold short edge to short edge. I'm gonna place it where the head is. I don't need to fold it, I suppose. I'm only making one hat. And I can draw the contours of the hat I would like. You don't have to give them a traditional Nutcracker hat. You can give them like a baseball hat or a crown. That is very crooked. I think I did not be very careful when I was cutting this out. We're gonna go ahead and cut it out anyway. So if I place my hat on top, that is fairly believable. I could probably also make a brim with the second part. So I'm gonna use my pencil to draw a little curve here. I'll glue this down. It's gonna cover my eyebrows a little bit, not too much. I'm gonna make it overlap the hat more. There we go. Oops. You could always put a band too on the hat if you want to add more contrast or more color. I am pretty happy with this Nutcracker. I'm not gonna give mine a beard. You obviously can give your Nutcracker a beard, a mustache. You can draw designs on it with colored pencil or crayon or marker. You can also create background elements if you would like. Okay, so make sure you throw away all of your scraps, and then if you're in person, put this on the drying rack so it doesn't stick to anything else.